All right, we're gonna start our meeting. Looks like Debbie isn't gonna make it tonight, so she's not gonna be here. We don't have any business anyway. PSA, if you want to vote on the PSA stuff, you need to vote tonight, correct, Melinda? Melinda? PSA, you have to vote for tonight? You have? Okay, midnight. Got to 2, 3, and 4. If you want to vote on PSA, you got to vote by midnight. Excellent. All right, Lynn, you want to give his bio?
Yeah. Hi. Tonight we have Henry Rowan, and we have had Henry before, and I'm going to read his bio. Henry is a national award-winning photographer and the executive director of the Pennsylvania Center for Photography, the PCP, in Doylestown. In addition to being a working professional photographer, Henry is a frequent lecturer and judge throughout the region and teaches a variety of workshops at the PCP. Henry's work is frequently on display at galleries and shows, and he has gained a following for his distinctive style of portraiture, as well as his unique portrayal of landscapes, nature, and sports. Photographically, Henry's style is well defined, but somewhat difficult to describe. He plays with movement, light, and color in unison to create images that are easy to identify as his. The driving theme of his work is his concept of non-existent imagery. The images I create never existed and never will exist. They are combinations of angles, colors, light, time, lenses, sensors, and more, which produce images that the human eye can't see and that the human mind can't process in real life. Unlike the photojournalist, I am not trying to capture a moment in time, but rather I am hoping to create a feeling in space that conveys the essence of the subject. Working within this framework provides a great deal of artistic freedom and fosters a worldview that is both individualistic and offers unlimited creative opportunities. Many of his images are the result of hours of work and are part of his Camerograph series, in which post-processing plays a major role to visually construct his reality. Regardless of the scene, Henry strives to reveal the essence of his subjects in a manner that is as unique as the subjects themselves. You may see his work at www.hrowanphotography.com or contact him at henryrowan.pcp@gmail.com. So welcome, Henry. And tonight, Henry's going to show some of his images of black and white. And I guess you're going to take this control of the screen, right, Henry?
Yes, if I can share here. Oh, I can. Okay. Let's see. Theoretically. Okay. Can you see the Lightroom screen?
No.
Oh.
Let's see.
Here.
Yes.
You can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what we have on the screen right now, and go to the full frame of this. This is Clearing Winter Storm by Ansel Adams. And the reason I have this up is this is 5 of about 6,000 different versions that are online. And every single one of them is wrong. So the reason I did this is if you really want to learn what good black and white photography is, don't do it off of the internet. It won't help you at all. You really need to go to galleries and museums and look at what is possible to do when you have a master printer involved in it. So, try to find a place that's showing some Adams work or some George Tice or Clive Butcher, any of the really great printers, and then study their work. It is when you see this image as a 40 or a 60-inch print, you pretty much have to just fall over. It's that outstanding and that dynamic. We don't get that on the internet. But if you don't get it, if you don't see it and you don't have a sense of what is possible, you don't really know what to strive for. So please go to galleries. Don't learn what good quality black and white is off of the internet. You're not going to make it. So New Jersey's got a bunch of good printers over the years. George Tice is certainly among the best local to you guys. And that would be my #1 recommendation. The other thing, let me just see where I stuck my notes here. Oh, #2, talking about Ansel Adams, is learn about the zone system. A lot of people don't think the zone system, which was developed in 1942 by Ansel Adams and Fred Archer, applies in the digital world. Nothing could be further from the truth. And what the zone system does is it's a way that they developed to pre-visualize images and then set up a process to create what they had pre-visualized. It was made famous by Adams. And basically what it says is that there are 10 shades of gray in a black and white image, possible in a black and white image. And each of those shades of gray has a corresponding luminance value. For example, a zone 3 might be heavy shadow under a bush, that type of thing. And what learning the zone system does is it helps you learn to visualize in black and white. It makes you think. It's not a matter of just clicking. You're constantly thinking, okay, I need detail down here. I need to maintain my highlights up here. And the zone system, prior to the age of digital, gave photographers a way to do that. It gave them a way to expose, told them how they had to develop it and what type of print, what type of paper it needed to go on. So there's all sorts of things that go into the zone system. It can get quite technical, but learn the basics of the zone system. You can find it online. If you're old school and want to read a book, get one of the Adams zone systems book. You can find them in garage sales. You can also order them on Amazon. But it's a very, very important concept for understanding how black and white should go together. Okay, Adams talked about there being 10 zones on a black and white print. Today, we have the capacity to really expand that with certain cameras up to about 14 zones, if you will. Dynamic range is something that's always talked about in camera ads. When you extend it out to 14, 12, 13, 14, what you're doing is you're now approaching the HDR range. And whether the camera is doing it itself or whether you're doing it in post, black and white and HDR very, very, very rarely work together. It's one of the things that will kill you if you're going into a competition. If you're starting to HDR your black and white images, I'm not saying every image, but you can count on 95% of them being tossed because traditional black and white photographers aren't going to accept it. And to be perfectly frank, it looks kind of clunky and junky. The other thing that you want to do is you want to come up with when you're going to use black and white and when you're going to use color. An image like this, which really had quite flat color, becomes alive when it's done in black and white. And that's often true of photojournalistic subjects, city subjects, things like that. Not everything is suitable for black and white, just as everything's not suitable for color. The critical thing with black and white is maintaining your tonal range. You don't want to blow your highlights. You don't want the entire image to go black on you. And you just want to maintain as wide a range as you can. Generally, certainly there's exceptions. But you want detail, you want sharpness, you want texture in your black and white images. Things like this, when you start to see, this is a shot that was in our studio, in the hallway of our studio. Look for your light, check your highlights, check your shadows. If you actually saw this as a print, you'd see that there was detail all the way down into here. The highlights in here are nicely formed. It works well. And that's just going to lead me to the next one. Okay, here, this particular image is set up to be displayed on a LCD projector. And the reason I say this is when you're working in black and white in particular, because you don't have color to sort of hide, mask some of the failures, you should save a base image and then make sure that you do an image for digital and a separate image for printing. Okay, this projects well, but it prints terribly. This prints spectacularly and displays just, it's a terrible image to throw on the screen. But this is the version I use to print from. This is the version I use to display. And you can see that there's a dramatic difference. You're going to find that the same applies to color to a certain extent, but certainly with black and white, print versions are going to be different almost invariably than the digital versions. And just watch your textures, watch your tones, and use the medium, to its full extent. You want to draw out the subject. You want to use it appropriately. This worked okay as a color image. I think it improved dramatically as a black and white. So kind of on that note, let me just see one other thing. Selective color rarely works. Rarely works. So if you're entering competitions, and it's more than Aunt Martha looking at your images with the red rose on the black background, most of the time, not always, most of the time, it's not going to work well for you. The other thing is, and I was a little bit confused about this with the instructions, pure black and white with no toning. I use toning all the time. Adams used toning all the time. Every black and white photographer out there uses toning in one way or another. So don't be afraid to look at your selenium tones and your sepias. Just keep things under control and don't go too crazy with them. They are standard fare in black and white printing. And it's, whether it's you're doing it in a chemical darkroom where you're choosing your developer and your paper specifically to create a type of tone, a warm tone, a cool tone, you still have all those options. But as a club, if you're going to do black and white, you should kind of have a discussion on what constitutes a black and white image, because it said no monochrome images, but by definition, black and white is monochrome. And from that, you sort of vary off a little bit and look at, for example, this has a heavy sepia tone to it. You just don't want to use it on everything. This has a selenium tone to it. So to me, they're all black and whites. And that's pretty much how I'm going to judge them tonight. So on that note, unless anybody has any questions, let's start the judging.
Thank you. Thank you, Henry, for that. If anybody has any questions, they can talk to you during the break.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, let's get my screen sharing here. All right, so we're going to start with the beginner group. We
Okay.
have 4 images in this group. We'll do a quick run through
Okay,
and then we'll score them. All right, now we're going to score them.
okay. I'm gonna do an 8 on this. I like this image. It's well conceived. It's could use a little bit more room on the sides. That's not a huge deal, but somebody thought about this and, you know, got a little bit low and shot up. It's a fun image. Technically it's good. And it's pleasant to look at. There's a story behind it, and I like it.
Solitary endeavor.
I'm going to do a 7 on this one, and I'm going to point out that this has a lot of potential, and I'd go back and work on it because I actually like the content of the image very much. But can you see my mouse moving on your screens?
No, but if you click on annotate, should be able to move the mouse to the top and then it'll say annotate.
That's what I was looking for. Oh, maybe view options. I don't see it. That's
Valerie, do you know where that is?
it used to be up there. I just had to upgrade the zoom, and
Yeah.
It might be in the options at the bottom of the screen actually, because it's in that menu now. I'm looking at mine. It's
Okay.
at the bottom.
Mine is still in view options at the top.
oh, actually I see it. There we go. Can you see the pen now? Moving around.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, well, I'll talk it through. In the man himself, there needs to be a little bit more shadow detail in what he's wearing. It's blocked out. The blacks are blocked out there. With black and white, with Lightroom and Photoshop and most other programs now, you have 3 very valuable controls. Your mid-tone controls, your whites and your blacks. Very rarely do you want to use contrast. Use your whites and your blacks to control your basic tonality and then bring up your midtones. So you've got some blocked out areas up here, the sky in the left-hand side. You've got some blown highlights in here. There's probably some detail. If there's not, this would come up by lowering the whites, actually lowering the highlights. Whites and highlights are not the same thing when you're playing with Lightroom. So you could pop your whites higher and drop your highlights to get a better tonal range. But you don't want to blow the highlights in the sky. And if you have to, either use a clone stamp or a patch tool and fill in these white areas that are up on the left-hand side of the sky. The content, the shooting is good. The processing needs a little bit of help, but it's a nice shot.
I want to be free.
I'm going to do a 7 on this one as well. There's a couple of things from a photographic standpoint rather than a purely black and white standpoint that are a bit that you might be able to improve on. Number one, if you're going to go in tight and cut off the feet, try going a little tighter. When you cut the feet off, you almost force yourself into a tighter perspective on the heads usually. The other thing is there appears to be some sort of a tree stump between his legs, and not that that's terrible, but it throws the viewer off a little bit. So what I find is that my eyes are kind of wandering all over the place trying to figure out where I should be looking, where in fact what I should be looking at is the horse's eye. When you have an animal or a human, the eyes are critically important. So that's what you're really photographing in most cases. You need those eyes unless you are really purposely not including them. And I've seen some artwork where they've eliminated the eyes and it's been spectacular, but in this case you really need a little bit more detail on the eyes. And I'd go in a little tighter. So 7 on this one.
Dogs on a bench.
I'll do an 8 on this because it's really very cute. There's room for improvement here in that the black fur, and black is very tough, white is very tough, but you have to hold detail. You have to hold detail in something like this for it to be truly effective. And in this case, you're going to be able, it looks like you could probably pull it up using the shadow controls, the blacks, but you want a little bit of detail on the dog's chest in their neck areas. But I'll do an 8 on this. It's a cute picture.
All right. So we have 2 8s. I'll show you the thumbnails at the bottom. And that's the first one. And this is the second one. And we need a first place.
I think I'll go with the statue.
This one here?
That one there. Yep.
All right, first place. All right, we're going to move on to the next competition, which is group 2. There's 6 images. So you need a first, second, third. We're going to go through them real quick. All right, now we'll judge them.
Wainford or Wallingford sleigh.
I'm going to do a 7 on this one. The tonality is a little bit off. I think you need a little bit more contrast in here and some selective coloring. For example, on the rug or whatever that is at behind the seat blanket. I try popping the whites on that area and also the blacks in there so that it's going to pop a little bit more. The sleigh itself, I'd probably pop the gray bands more than they are so that they stood out a little bit more. Lower your highlights just a touch in the front of the sleigh. And I think you just need a little bit more pop in this image to make it really work. The other thing is the bells on the wall kind of throw you off visually. So I think about perhaps taking them out. And I think you'd have a little bit stronger image. It just, there's an incongruity there visually. And that doesn't fall into the black and white area, that falls into the compositional area. You don't want things like that that are sort of out of the blue unless you're doing it intentionally. There's nothing wrong with confusing people as they look at the images to get them to look at it longer. But my eye keeps going back to that, so I'm sort of wandering through the image a little bit too much.
Wakotahachie Wetlands Walkway.
Nicely done. I would have preferred that the top of the trees was not cut off at the end of it. Try going a little bit lower on angles like this. Most people just stand and shoot. This looks like it was dropped down a little bit. try dropping a little bit further, you'll get a different perspective. The image is good. We'll do an 8 on this.
Pose possum.
This is nicely done. The black and white area on this is nicely done. It's a good capture. The eyes are good and sharp. It's focused where it needs to be. The eyes are in focus. The ears are beginning to drop off. The nose is beginning to drop off. So that's a nice focus there. Excuse me. There seems to be a little bit of burning in the back over here. That's not quite, when you're going to burn and dodge, you have to be a little bit careful. Could just be shadows, I'm not sure. We'll do an 8 on this one.
Abe at work.
This is a very nice, I like this shot a lot. The processing, you need to get that a little bit under control. Image wise, content wise, I'd give it a 9. Processing wise, I'd give it a 7. So we're going to end up at an 8 on that. Where you're losing this is in 3 areas primarily. The highlights are blown on the fence and on various parts of the horse and the girl's hat. You want to bring those back into the range where they're not going to be blown off. The tree in the background, you have a lot of possibility to bring out more detail there, which is also going to provide you with a little bit more separation and a little bit, you're going to get an illusion of a little bit sharper image. So bring up your shadows in the tree behind the fence. And you also want to bring up a little bit more detail on the girl who's holding the plow. So her hat's a little bit too white, her clothing, lighten it up just a little bit and control the highlights on the horse, and the image will go way, way, way up. Nice image, nice shot.
So 8 was your final score?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
3 paper kite butterflies on a limb.
I'd love to see what the original looks like. I like the design. I like the butterflies. This is the grain structure on this, and I use a lot of grain, kind of throws me off. There's a lot of blown highlights on this that really need to come back down, because your eye is almost always going to go to the brightest place, brightest part of the frame. And in this case, the brightest part of the frame really should be the butterflies, because that's what you're looking at. But when I look at this, I'm looking straight ahead, dead center into the middle of that frame and seeing just the whiteness there. And there's obviously some detail, so I think you can bring that back. I think you have a good shot, and I think it just needs more work. And I don't know that you need to go to trickery for it, with the grain, unless this was shot at a very, very high ISO, which it might have been. But I'm going to do a 7 on this one.
Buddy.
And we'll do a 7 on this one too. Now, what you have here is, again, a case of tonal range problems. There's a lot more detail that can come out of the black areas, especially around the eye. And the nose is, there's a highlight there that's been blown. In black and white, unless you're doing it on purpose, you cannot blow the highlights. That's number 1 rule. And the other number 2 rule is you can't block up your shadows. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have pure white or pure black in your image. It's that you can't dominate it. And in the case of the nose, the highlights are dominating his face. And in the case of his body, the blacks have just gone too far to the blacks. So play around with the tonal range and sort of widen it out a little bit on the dog itself.
All right, we've got 3/8. I need a first, second, third from them. Bring up the thumbnails. This is image 1. Image 2. And image 3.
Image 3, we're gonna make the third. That's gonna be our third. And just, can I see the other one for a second? Thank you. We're gonna make this one first and the possum second.
All right, we're going to review this contest now. As I get some windows out of the way.
Third place. Abe at work. It might be Abby at work. Wayne Baruch. Congratulations, Wayne. Second place. Pose Possum, Pat Cruzel. Congratulations, Pat.
All right, we'll look at the first place later. All right, we're going to move on to group 3. There are 28 images. So we'll flip through them really quick and then we'll judge them.
Okay.
All right, and here we go.
Shadow.
Interesting tonality, well done. You know, as an abstract, it's fun to look at. So I'll do an 8 on this. I'm in my abstract phase right now, so I like the way the lines flow in this and the tonality of it. Good image. Different, well seen, well envisioned.
The Lone Tree.
Gonna do an 8 on this one too. I like this. This is silhouettes often don't work. The smart move here by the creator was leaving the white in the grass or the field underneath the tree, the little speckles of white, whatever they may be. Give it some life. You know, interesting approach. Again, you know, a lot of my judging goes on how the photographers are seeing. Technical perfection is not important. It's no, I shouldn't say that. It is important, but it's not the critical thing. It's what the image is conveying. Am I thinking about it? Is there a story? Why am I looking at the image? That's what I'm asking myself. Why do I want to look at something? And this I want to look at because it's different, it's interesting, well seen.
If the shoe fits.
Interesting concept, well executed. I'm gonna give this one a 9. You know, my initial reaction was, why did we cut off the toe and the heel? And my answer to that is, I don't know. That's the photographer's decision, and he decided to. And they're not really cut off. It's an interesting approach. Well seen, well executed.
You got treats?
I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a 7 on this one. I think that it's an interesting dog shot, and you know, it's fun. You know, it's an interesting phenomenon. Pets and children in camera clubs always get an awe from the audience, and that's important. But it's also you know, you've really got to carry it through. This is a cute shot. And if it was my dog, I'd be very happy with it. This is a case where I think that the focus really needed to be more on the nose. It's shifting back toward the back. So that's throwing me a little bit visually. It looks like the point of absolute focus is actually on the forehead. So make sure that your focus points aren't staying on the middle of your frame. Be willing to move your focus points. And I think that's what's throwing me actually, is that the focus point is a little bit too far back. But otherwise it's a nice shot. It's just something that's throwing me on this one.
On the way to the dentist.
So I'm going to do a 7 on this one, mainly because there's a focus issue. The child who is the primary, should be the primary focus, or the horse, neither of them are as sharp as they need to be on something like this. Give yourself enough room. You don't need to crop tightly. If this was how it was shot, modern lenses and modern cameras can take an awful lot of cropping. Give yourself room. You don't have to be shooting tight. You can always crop it if you decide this is what you want. But you know, why cut off the wheels and why cut off the horse's legs beforehand? Give yourself more options there. Don't be afraid to crop. It's just, there's just no reason for it anymore. I know certain photography students tell me, teachers say, you can't crop. I don't want to see any cropping. And my response is, you don't want to take any more courses from that teacher, because they're not giving you the options that you need in the field. So the cropping on this and the sharpness, make it a 7.
Scottsdale Mission Church.
Very nicely done. High contrast with gray tones, wonderfully done. This would make a brilliant print. And really, especially with black and white, the print is the ultimate expression of a photograph. And that's, you know, I guess it's from being old, but that's how I look at things. This is a 9. Good job. Well seen, well executed.
Coat rack.
I like this. This is kind of a fun image. Yeah, this is different. Somebody thought about this one. I'm going to give this one a 9 too. Technically, it's very well done. All the tonality is good, and it makes you think. I'm happy with that. 9 on this one.
Into the Woods.
I'm going to do a 7 on this, and the reason is contrast. The snow is very, very, very hard to work. So you have to, on something like this, don't be afraid of bracketing all over the place. It's another thing that, oh, you should, take all your meter readings. Memory cards are cheap these days. Bracket, give yourself some room to work, and don't think too much about what the exposure, oh, do I have the perfect exposure? You have plenty of dynamic range on these images. Here, the white is blown. There's no detail in the snow. There's no true black. So there's a lot of contrast potential here that I don't think has been realized yet. I like the way the creek, sort of flows through the woods. But it's a little on the flat side, so 7 on this one.
Where did it go?
This is a very nicely captured image, and I'm going to give this an 8 for only one reason, and that is the hand in the lower left hand portion of the frame is throwing me off. It needs to be a little bit darker, or even get rid of it, clone it out. And the reason is, on his thumb, near his thumb, is a white spot, and that is drawing my attention down rather than focusing on his hand, the hand that's out. The top part of the image is great. I love it. Very nicely done. The tonality is good. It's the bottom hand is just throwing me off. That's the only reason, but that's a nicely done image, but an 8 on this one.
Light play.
I'm going to do a 7 on this one. There's kind of a lack of sharpness throughout that hurts this. This is an image that would also benefit from using the shadow slider and midtone slider to bring a little bit more detail out in the shadow areas. And again, you can do that selectively because you don't necessarily want to change all of the color, but you need to play around a little bit more with the shadow detail, and sharpness here is an issue.
Fuzzy dice.
Do a 7 on this one as well. The tone down the highlights a little bit, and you also have to be careful of little gotchas. And one of them is in the upper left-hand corner. There's sort of a white triangular, slim white triangular piece. And what happens when you look up, you kind of lose it. I could tell there's detail left to be had in the balls, in the dice. But when I get up to the dice, my eye is immediately drawn off to the left and out of the frame. So you just need to be a little bit careful with how your eye is being drawn, especially with black and white, because things like that just get hot, and they're hard to control. So you either have to take them out or you have to change the angle when you're shooting it.
Riding the wave.
This is another one. I don't quite understand the legs. It's hard to tell whether he has a wetsuit on or not. The tonality of the skin tones doesn't match the tonality of the face, which to me is kind of an issue. It's an interesting capture, and it's a good capture. I think the processing needs a little bit of work, so that the skin tonality is okay, or works a little bit better. So I'm gonna do a 7 on this one.
Blade Creek Mill.
The snow has been held in place quite well. I think there's a little bit more contrast that can come out in this. There's a warm tone. There's something that the tonality doesn't quite match the scene. This is one where I don't know that I'd sepia tone it, or go to a warmer shade. And there's a wide range of sepias and warm tones and all that good stuff. But I think I'd probably look at toning this one a little bit differently. But it's well shot. There's good detail in the water. There's good detail in the snow. Might get a little bit more contrast, a little bit more black out of the windows, which will make it pop. I'm going to do an 8 on this one.
Yankee fans.
Well, I'm a Philly fan, so this gets a 2. But other than that, I'd give this one an 8 as well. Nice street shot, fun shot. Actually, I'm going to go to a 9 on this one. I like this one. I'd try to bring in a little bit more detail into the sneakers. They're a little bit too hot. And the reason, it just draws my eye down a little bit farther than I'd like. But it's a good shot. It's a well executed shot, good and sharp, kind of fun. Nice shot.
Milkweed.
We're gonna do an 8 on this one, and to the creator, you have a lot of potential here. I think go crazy. There's a black and there's a white, but it doesn't have a lot of overall contrast to the shot. I would just play around a little bit more, and maybe this is the best, or the way you like it, and that's fine. I think I've told this club, I've been married a long time, so I know I'm always wrong, and take that to heart. I think this has more potential to be something really special. I'd play around with this a little bit more. And off the top of my head, I don't know if it would work or not, but I'd certainly, tinker with this. But it's well seen. So an 8 on this one.
Buoy and ropes.
Obviously, this is what the creator wanted it to look like. It's as a very high contrast image. It's fine. The composition is good. I wish that there weren't quite as much on the bottom of the buoy. Wasn't quite as bright, but it's an 8. It's the photographer accomplished what they wanted to do with this, and it works. An 8 on this.
Mirror image.
Fun image, well processed. I don't know why the texture is there. It looks like it's sharp to begin with. I don't know why. Personal preference. What I would do personally, is I'd get rid of the texture, and I'd work a little bit more to control the highlights on the top bird. And yeah, the tail feathers, the back need a little bit of control. I'm going to do a 7 on this. watch your textures. Textures in black and white are, just something that's probably going to catch you up in a bad way most of the time with judges.
Harrison Drawbridge.
This one we're going to do a 7 on also. It is not as sharp as I think it needs to be. With today's cameras, I don't know obviously what any of the exposure data is. I can't tell whether it's a focus issue, a lens issue, or a camera shake issue. Always make sure you have enough shutter speed to get yourself a sharp image. And don't be overly afraid of going up in ISO. I see a lot of things like this where, typically somebody's shooting at f11 at a 15th of a second. Drop it down to, f8, you'll still have plenty of depth of field. You'll pick up, a shutter speed and not have the focus issues. The other thing on this one is the shadow detail, especially on the left-hand side, could come up also under the bridge. I think you're going to have a much more detailed image if you do that. So watch your shadow detail. You can pull it up without losing your blacks.
Coming home for dinner.
Again, there's a focus or movement issue on this one. If you're going to be recording motion, make sure you're recording the motion and not getting sort of in that halfway spot between sharp and fuzzy. And I'm doing a lot of fuzzy stuff right now. I mean, I'm not just going crazy on focus. I don't really care about that. But you're not really at a point with this image where the viewer knows that your slow shutter speed relative to the horse's movement is intentional. So I'm going to do a 7 on this. This is another case where you can bring up the shadow detail, particularly in the tail and the neck and the underbelly of the horse, without losing anything. Capturing motion is difficult. You have to make a whole bunch of different decisions on how you're going to do it. What's important, how, are you following the horse? Are you just letting his speed dictate the degree of motion that you're getting? All sorts of different decisions. But if you're going to go for motion shots, go all the way in. Halfway in usually doesn't get you there.
Steeple of the East Washington Church.
Beautiful black and white, very traditional black and white, well executed, good tonality. Again, this would make a beautiful print. The maker of this one knows what they're doing. Good grayscale tonal range throughout. 9 on this one, nicely done. Technical image. It's a fun image.
Descent into Darkness.
This actually this is an interesting problem, and is the window what's in focus or the stairs what's in focus? It looks like it's the windows. I try to bring up a little bit more shadow detail on the walls. You have plenty of black in there, and I'd also bring down the highlights when you're looking through the upper part of the left-hand side of the window, or the entire left-hand side of the window. You can bring those highlights down a little bit so they're not quite as dominant. And this is where the zone system comes in, because above zone, depending on who you're talking to, 9 or 10, you really have very little detail. And in this case, you're approaching that and you really need a little bit more information there. I'll do an 8 on this one. It's a good try, hard shot. Somebody was thinking this one through though, so give them an 8 on this one.
The summer is over.
I'm gonna do a 7 on this one. There's more contrast to be had here and make it pop a lot more. But the question that I want to ask whenever you're shooting something, what you have to be asking yourself is what do I want my audience to see? What is the story here? And am I conveying that story? And I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to be looking. And on every image, there's actually only one point of absolute sharpness, and then everything else is acceptable sharpness. And here, I don't know what the point of. I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking. And if you say the whole thing, visually, that's not how people react to things. They react to a specific item within a frame. So you want to have a focal point and let the rest of the image carry the story, tell the story. So I'm going to do a 7 on this one.
Church.
Interesting. I'm going to do it. I'll do a 8 on this one. There's a lot of work that can be done in terms of the shadow detail, bringing out on the lower right-hand side and from within behind the pillars at the top of the dome. There's more shadow detail that could be brought in. I'd probably also lower the highlights a little bit. There's more to be had in this image. One of the problems that you get with this is try straightening out your perspective. And this is a good reason for shooting wider than you normally might, because you can straighten out the lines of both the tower and the far left portion of the far left wall of the church. But when you do that, you are going to end up cropping into the frame. So if you had more room in the foreground and possibly also in the sky, you can make those adjustments in Lightroom very easily. It's going to strengthen this image a lot, but it's going to cut into the church. So make sure you leave yourself room to work. So that's how it's a good shot. It's a very tough shot. Architectural stuff is tough.
The big day.
This is an image that comes off as slightly flat. So it's a nice shot. The window portion of it's really good. I like that. I'd play around with the tonality of this one and see what you got. There's no true black in this, so you're not getting the full range of contrast. You could pull a lot out of the eye area, and then I think that's going to pop it over. It's a nice shot. We'll do an 8 on this.
Dewdrops on petals.
Okay, this is a nicely done. We're going to do a 9 on this. I'd actually like a little bit more room top and bottom on this, but technically it's well executed. The tonality is good. I know where I'm supposed to be looking, and the rest of the image helps tell the story. It's nicely done.
Success.
I'm not. It's a great capture. I don't understand the grain on the bear itself, because I can't even see the bear's eyes, or barely see them. But I'm not seeing a lot of grain in the foreground and the background. Actually coming in and out. This may be a problem with transmission. I'm not sure. The grain structure on the bear is kind of odd to me, but it's a great capture. I'm going to do an 8 on this. Good capture.
Ice.
I'm going to do a 9 on this. Nicely done. This will make a good print. Tonality is good. There's a couple of hot spots on it that I would work to relieve. Almost dead middle on the right hand side, you have a hot spot in the same plane. A little bit off center to the left, there's another hot spot. And if you go all the way to the left, again, pretty much in the middle, you have another hot spot. Those little things in the corners can really come back and bite you from a visual perspective. So I would try to control the highlights a little bit better on this image, but it's a pretty image.
Abandoned underground concourse WTC.
Looks like a fun place to shoot. I'm going to do a 9 on this too. I think the photographers, make a statement stylistically. I'd like a little bit more detail on the sign hanging down in the windows. Maybe reduce the highlights a little bit along the long window under the gateway sign. It's a little bit on the hot side. I could tell that there is some detail there. When you get into situations like that, if you've got to control the detail, one of the things that you can do is you could take how I would take this image to relieve that hot spot is I would simply, in Photoshop, I would duplicate it, put it on top of itself, and then select multiply as my blending mode and paint in where I wanted the extra detail. It's a simple process, easy to control. Highlights usually works, not always, but it's a simple way to do it. And it's a fun shot.
All right, we've got 8 9s.
Ooh,
So I need a first, second, and third from there. So this is image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, image 5, image 6, image 7, and image 8.
okay, while we're on this one is going to be third.
Okay.
And if you go back to the start, the church, not next church over. I'd actually go to the shiv first. We're going to make that number 2. And the church is first.
This church.
Yes.
This is HM.
Oh, you need an HM?
Yeah, we need several of them, so
Okay.
take care of these first.
Um,
2. 3, 4, 5 of them.
Let's do the Yankee guy.
I need one more actually out of a group of 10.
Oh.
We had a total of 6 HMs, so
Oh,
the
okay.
rest in that group, and now I need one more. So we'll go through these 10, and I need one out of here. So this is image 1,
Okay,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 10th.
okay, and we need one from here.
I need one for HM, yes.
Okay, the magician,
I'm sorry.
fellow.
Which one is it?
2 over.
Oh, this guy.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll review this contest.
Honorable mention, coat rack, Richard Lewis. Congratulations, Rich. Where did it go? Matthew Rank. Congratulations, Matt. Yankee fans, Mike Padway. Congratulations, Michael. Steeple of the East Washington Church, John Sandstead. Congratulations, John. Dewdrops on Petals, Melinda Matlock. Congratulations, Melinda. Ice, Fred Appelian. Congratulations, Fred. Third place, Abandoned Underground Concourse, World Trade Center, Mike Padway. Congratulations, Michael. Second place, If the Shoe Fits, Mary Ann Martin. Congratulations, Mary Ann.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break here at the library to have some cookies and coffee. I'll put a timer up. If anybody wants to unmute themselves, they will be able to in 1 second.
Very interesting. I'm gonna do a 9 on this one. This is kind of HDR to the extreme, in a weird way. Very, very different, exciting image, an exciting image. And Joe and I were just talking, this is an image that I want to look at. This is an image that forces me to go through it. It's very complex, lots to look at. Fun image, and really nicely done. Nice treatment, unusual. Good job.
Shadows on the Sidewalk.
Nicely constructed image. I'd probably go for a little bit more contrast. We'll do an 8 on this. It's a fun, well done image. And again, it's something different. Somebody saw this and decided that, you know, that they actually thought about it and they saw it. So an 8 on this one.
Batstow Village.
I'm gonna do a 7 on this one. And technically it's okay. The question I have is, You know, what is the message the photographer is trying to convey? I don't know that the roof structures are enough of a geometric design to hold my attention too much. Technically, it's well done.
Virginian tiger moth.
Very unusual. I'll give a 9 on this one too. Nicely done. Black and white wise, it's really well done, and it's very different. So nice, good job.
Just hanging.
I'm going to do an 8 on this. Interesting idea. This is a situation where a lot of it comes down to personal style and taste. I've never been a fan of narrow, long images. So that's probably flavoring it a little bit, but this is technically well done. This falls more into personal preference, I think, than anything else. Certainly nothing wrong with the shot at all. And that's that. It's unfortunate, but that's the way judging kind of works. But it's a nice shot.
Contemplation.
Technically, this is well done. I like the top half very much. I like the tonality in it. I'm having trouble making out what the person at the bottom is. It's something that I'm not familiar with. It's kind of an interesting. It's an 8 for me. It's one that I'd have to look at a lot longer. I like it. It's an interesting shot.
The bridge.
I'm going to do a 7 on this one. Technically, it's good. It's kind of a common bridge shot, so it has a lot of potential. A shot like this, but change your angle. You know, it seems like you're almost shooting down, shooting at full height. Drop to the ground. I say that even though I can no longer get up from the ground, but that's theoretically where you should be shooting something like this. And there appears to be a person on the bridge. And I try, you know, you want to get them a little bit more in detail. What, you know, so that the bridge has a purpose. There's a story. Where is she going? It looks like it might be a woman. Could actually end up being a tree. I'm not sure. I think it's a person. But you want to bring that human element in because you have a human structure, the bridge, and you want to have some sort of interaction in this case, I think. Technically, the black and white part is fine.
What a flash.
Now, this is coming a little bit too close to HDR. It doesn't quite get into the HDR, but you have an extended dynamic range here going on, and it's not. You're right on the hairy edge of going too far in terms of the processing. I think I'd rather see a more straightforward approach to this. And we'll do an 8 on this. It's an interesting image. I think that I'd probably choose to process it a little bit differently. I think it would work a little bit better.
Church of the Unusual.
I love the lower part of this image. I'm gonna do an 8 on this, and the reason is that the top of the tower doesn't match the bottom of the building in terms of tonality. And that's okay, except that it almost seems like it should be reversed. The bottom should be darker than the top because the top's getting more light than the bottom is. And that may not have been the case in this particular instance, I don't know, but that's how the viewer is going to look at it. So I'm going to do an 8 on this one. I checked the tonality on the building, the tower on the building.
Abstracted building.
This is a 9. This is a cool image, well seen, well photographed, well presented. It's a very different image. This is an image that when you walk by, you have to stop and look at. You might go, what the hell? But you've stopped, and that's the important part. You've looked at this image. Nicely done.
Bodie in late afternoon.
I'm gonna do a 7 on this one. I think that there's a lot more with the scene. I'd like a little bit more information on the right-hand side. Tonality wise, it's okay, but it also has kind of, you know, if I looked at this on a histogram, it would probably be an okay histogram. But I think I'd like to see a little bit more shadow detail on the building on the right, just to make it pop a little bit more. And the way I would bring that out is just using white. If you bring out white tones in that building, I think you're going to see a very, very different image. You know, not everything you'd be surprised at what pops out when you start using painting with or increasing the white levels rather. So it looks a little flat to me. It looks, you know, so give it a whirl. If you have more room on the right, that would be great.
Frame.
Technically, it's good. Again, it has the long and wide, long and narrow rather. It throws things off a little bit. More importantly, the bright bar right in the center of the frame that feeds out from her eye doesn't really help. I tone that down and pop the white area of her eye and bring that up so that we're looking at her eye a little bit stronger. An 8.
Death Valley Sky.
So what you want to do with this is you want to control those sky values better. There's, when you go, whether you're using a polarizer or a filter to get your deep black sky, you have to control the highlight areas of the clouds. So I'm going to do a 7 on this. You know, I would work on this a little bit, be less focused on making your sky black and more focused on making, providing detail in the clouds. You can't always do that as shot, but you always can add some detail back into the blown highlight areas of skies, you know, either cloning it in or patching it in or doing something, or just bracketing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with using multiple exposures to create one image. So you can have one portion of the frame or one frame doing the bottom and one frame doing the top. And some people may poo-poo that as Photoshop trickery, and I would respond, that's a smart photographer.
Your score?
Oh, I'm sorry. A 7 on this.
Open gate,
Seems to be a long exposure, nicely done. This is one where I would also pull up the shadow detail. I think you're gonna find you have a lot of room to adjust in this and really make it pop off the screen better. I'm gonna do an 8 on this. Play around with this, you have a lot more detail that you can pull up.
from the inside,
Very high contrast image, this works. Interesting image, well seen, and this is one I think I'd probably pull the whites up a little bit higher and really make it high key. The whites aren't quite white. You may end up losing a little bit. I'm not sure if you do that. It's worth looking at though. We'll do an 8 on this one.
All right, we got 3 9s. I need a first, second, third from them. This is image 1.
Okay.
This is image 2. And this is image 3.
I'm gonna go with this as number 1. The bug as number 3. And the other one is number 2.
All right. And I need 3 HMs out of 8. So this is image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, image 5, image 6, image 7, and image 8.
Okay. That one we're gonna make an HM. Okay. We'll make that an oops. Go back, we'll make that an HM.
Okay.
And let's go over to the right. Back to the right with the photographer. And we'll make that an HM. Nice capture.
Okay. So that should be 3. Let's see. What? Actually, wait a minute. That's wrong. So 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're going to review this contest. And then after that, you're going to have one last task, and that's going to be to pick the best of show.
Okay.
honorable mention. Contemplation, Joe Gilchrist. Congratulations, Joe. What a flash, Lynn Padwick. Open Gate, J.C. Roy. Congratulations, J.C. Third place, Virginian Tiger Moth, Tam Stewart. Congratulations, Tam. Second place, Harvey Birnbaum, Sea Rigs. Congratulations, Harvey.
All right, give me 1 second to put together the best of show. All right, so we've got 4 images here. I'm gonna go through them all. And we need one as best to show.
Okay,
So this is image 1. This is image 2. This is image 3. And this is image 4. And I can go back and through them as much as you need.
yeah, let's, we're gonna focus on the 2 middle ones if we can,
This middle one
and the church.
and the church. Okay.
Really tough call. Can we go back to the other one? I'm gonna go with this one because it is so different. The church is very, very well done. Total toss up. Easily could change my mind in 2 minutes. So let's go with this one. They're both great.
All right. Excellent. And we'll review this contest. First, we'll do the 3 first places.
Complete Trust, Zena Motley Weaver. Very nice, Zena. Are you there? Would you like to tell us about your image?
Yes, I'm here. So back in April when we had the cemetery contest, I had took this one, but it was in color before, so now it's in black and white. And I've always liked it after someone mentioned to me once I should have put it in black and white. So I put it in this competition. So I'm really happy.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Scottsdale Mission Church, John Sandsted. Congratulations, John. Would you like to tell us about your image?
I don't see John anymore.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's with us.
Wakatahatchee Wetlands Walkway, Walter Blitz. Congratulations, Walter. Would you like to tell us about your image? I guess he's not here either.
Yeah, I don't see a Walter in the list.
Okay.
No
And
Walter.
the winner is Best of Show. Abstracted Buildings, Sue Fielder. Congratulations, Sue. Would you like to tell us about your image?
Okay, well, I liked the building originally, but then we had the abstract competition and I had played with it for that, but then I changed it to black and white completely because I liked it better.
It's really nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, this concludes our competition for November. Our next competition is our next meeting, and that is going to be,
I think it's your best photo.
yeah, your best image,
Favorite
basically.
photo. Yeah,
Is it your favorite photo or something like that?
your favorite photo.
My
What if
favorite
it-
photo.
What if it won an award before? Does it have to not be an award winner?
Yes.
or-
I cannot
yes.
have won any awards.
Okay.
So your favorite photo that hasn't won an award before.
Right.
Thanks for
And
the
that meeting
clarification.
be in 4 weeks.
Henry? Is Henry still here?
Right, Henry is still here.
Henry, thank you so much for all your comments and your little teaching in the beginning. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, and everybody did a really good job. Judging these things is not easy, and you had some nice work there. Congratulations.
Very
Thank
good
you.
commentary.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're going to start packing up here. I'll leave the Zoom on if you guys want to chat, but we're going to pack up here at the library.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.